2025, and today I will be telling you about how I secured 3 dates in 1 hour today in London. And before I get into the story, before I narrate the day, firstly I want to just talk to you a bit about who I used to be just 2.5 years ago, prior to being able to do something like what I've done today. Because it was quite a long journey for me, and I definitely was not always like this. Although a lot of guys come across my content and they make the incorrect assumption that I was always like this. All right, so I'm 25 years old now, and when I was 23, so two years ago, when I was 23 years old, I was spending 8 to 10 months at a time going, having a dry streak. So I was going 8 to 10 months at a time without getting laid. I was a Tinder warrior. I was a Bumble warrior. So I had all the apps, right? Tinder, Bumble, Hinge, and I would swipe on them all day, right? Even though I was working a six-figure programming job at the time, I was working from home. And in between writing code, I would like write code for a few hours. Then I'd pick up Tinder and I would start swiping a bit, check if I had any new matches. I had all the notifications on, praying that somebody would swipe right on me. Yeah, please let it be a hot girl this time and not a chubby fat girl. And that's who I was just literally 2.5 years ago, literally. Go back to my earlier content and you can see that I add pictures of myself and who I used to be, especially if you go even further back in high school. But that was just 2.5 years ago. I was already frustrated, stuck on dating apps. At the time, I had a roommate who was in college. So this is around the time I was 22, 23 years old. I had a roommate, and he still had the connections with all the senior university students. And so every now and then he'd invite me out to a party, and I'd do my best to hit on girls that way. Usually went nowhere. Then he and I would go out to bars when there were no parties on Fridays and Saturdays. We'd go out to bars, we'd take shots of tequila, we'd drink beers, we'd play pool, and we would go out with the intention of bringing girls back. And I remember like there were so many nights just like this where my roommate and I were like, all right, let's go, bro. We're gonna fuck. Let's go. We're gonna get girls tonight for sure. This is our night, right? We'd be hyping each other up. And then he and I would rock up to the bar or the club, wherever we ended up, and we would find a location, we'd post up in the bar or the club, and we would look at all the hot girls and we would point them out to each other, but none of us would do anything about it. Yeah, so we'd just watch them, we'd salivate over them, we'd go, wow, she's hot, look at her body, wow. Are you gonna go talk to her? No. What about you? No. Oh, okay. And that was the entire night. Yeah, we would just be looking at the girls we wanted to speak to, but we didn't have the courage, we didn't have the balls to actually do it. All right, so that's just 2.5 years ago, right? Now, if we rewind a little bit further back, we get to when I was 21 years old, and I was in a relationship with a girl that I allowed to move in with me. And the only reason I let her move in with me was because I wanted to get laid consistently. Think how awful of a sentence that is. Yeah, that's a terrible reason to be living with somebody, right? Now, I was very, I would say I was very rude to this girl because I definitely strung her along and made her think that I wanted something long term with her. But really, what I was doing was like lying by omission. And essentially, I wasn't saying what I should have said, which is, look, the only reason I want you to move in with me is because I want to save on rent and I want to bang you all the time. I don't actually want to pursue anything long term with you. I don't actually want to meet your parents. I don't actually want to marry you or anything. And it's funny because as we got towards the end of that 12-month lease that we both signed together, these emotions started to surface. So even though I was trying to lie by omission in the beginning, I quickly realized that just having a girl to lay next to every night and fuck whenever I want actually did not make me as happy as I thought it would. I was just so happy that I could finally stop swiping on apps, and I just had a girl that I didn't have to go out and try to chase girls at bars and stuff, and so I was so happy about it. But yeah, I soon found out, this was like a month after she moved in, and we were only a month into a 12-month lease. I soon found out that there were a few problems. The first is that I picked her, not or excuse me, I didn't pick her, but I just settled for her. She was the only girl that was giving me any sort of romantic attention at the time. And so I didn't choose her at all. She just so happened to be one of the rare girls that actually was interested in me sexually. And because I couldn't find any others, I didn't have any choices to make. So it was either jerk off every night to the same porn or get into a fake relationship with this girl, lead her on to think that I actually want her, when in reality I just wanted the sex. Yeah, now obviously I've matured a ton since that period of my life. That's about 4 years ago now. It's funny to think that that was only 4 years ago, but that's who I was just 4 years ago, right? So what I'm trying to do is like unwire the persona that you're seeing in front of you when you watch my infields, and you might think, wow, this is such a smooth guy. You see the title, I'm setting up dates and stuff, and oh wow, 3 dates in 1 hour. You might think that I'm better than I actually am. In reality, I'm not, right? So just going back 4 years ago, I was I was a kind of a misleading person when it came to relationships. And I would do the whole bait and switch things with girls, right? I would make them think that I wanted something with them, but in reality I just wanted sex. And because I couldn't get it elsewhere and I was going 10 to 12 months at a time without being able to get sex, I lied by omission, by pretending as though I wanted a relationship or behaving that way and seeing them all the time. And then in this girl's case, actually allowing her to move in with me. And then, to finish off the story, 2 months into that 12-month lease, where she's coming home to me every day after work, and I just started to lose interest. I was like, I'm kind of attracted to this girl, but not the most attracted to her. She's really lovey-dovey and all wrapped around my finger, and I really just want my personal space, right? I learned a lot about myself during that time. I realized that I actually don't want to be living with anybody, especially not with a romantic partner, because unless we're fully compatible and I've chosen her, rather than just, oh, this is convenient, moving in because of convenience. Unless I've actually chosen her, I'm in a place in life where I want to live with somebody, and this is like the future mother of my children or my future wife, for example. Unless that's the scenario, I don't see a point in me living with a girl. I like my personal space. I don't want to be in a fully exclusive relationship at this stage in my life, and so it's cool because now with this skill set, we're gonna get into it shortly, but with this skill set, not only am I able to line up, let's say, 3 dates in 1 hour, and I'll go over that, but I also can make better decisions now, make more selfish decisions, such as I'm not going to entertain this girl, even if this girl wanted a relationship with me, right? Let's say the girl that I let move in with me, I would not even entertain it for a second because I don't need to lie by omission anymore. I'm not in a sexually scarce position anymore where I need to use girls and lie to them just so I can get in their pants, just so that I don't have to go on this 10-month dry streak anymore. Instead of that, I just walk over to another girl and find one, keep doing that until I find one that fits into my life the way that I want, right? So out here, it's actually fairly fucking easy. Unfortunately, I'm not going on dates out here, but I've already met just so many that I tell them I'm only here for a month, and I can see in their eyes that they get it, right? Deep down, they understand what I'm saying here, which is I'm not going to be here for a long time, but we could have a good time while I am here, right? So unfortunately, I'm not actually going on these dates with them. I'm just giving them fake numbers or deleting their numbers. But if I was going on dates, it's like this is how easy it is now to get myself out of the position that I used to be in for 10, 14 months at a time, just 2.5 years ago. All right. So yeah. Anyways, continuing on. So that was when I was 21. Now, if we rewind a year prior to when I was 21 years old and this girl was living with me, this was the worst phase I'd ever been in, as far as dating, because this was post high school. So all of the clout that I got from being the star receiver on the football team, all of that clout that I generated from ages 14 to 18 when I was in high school was washed away as soon as graduation day was over. And then all of the skills that I had built through sales had yet to be built because I hadn't worked these sales jobs for long enough yet. So this was a very difficult phase of life as far as dating and romance for me. It was from when I was 18 to just about 20 years old. So in this phase of life, I had graduated high school, as mentioned. A lot of my friends were going off to college and university, and I wasn't. I was working a shit job, washing windows and cleaning gutters. So that's what I was doing for a living. My dad was safe to say disappointed in what I was doing with my life. Yeah, because he had teed me up well. I was actually really good in school. I probably could have gotten into some proper decent colleges and universities if I really applied myself, but I decided I didn't want to go. I didn't want to get into debt. I was too lazy to apply for scholarships and write all the fucking essays they required. And I didn't even want to go. That was the key. I just didn't want to go, right? I had already hated the time I spent in class in high school. I was like, why am I learning about the Pythagorean theorem? I don't give a fuck. I just want to go out, play football, bang girls, which I couldn't do at the time. And I didn't know why I had to learn all this shit. So when it came to like trying to get into college, I had no motivation to go. I just didn't want to. Right? I was looking at other guys and they were getting full ride scholarships to play football and just fuck off and then go to the NFL. They didn't have to worry about getting a degree and shit. I was like, I want to do something like that. Unfortunately, I'm not that athletic, but I just wanted, I was always what is the word? Attracted. Yeah, I was always attracted to that archetype of person, that lifestyle. The musician, the magician, the pirate, yeah, the rock star, the guy that just doesn't take the standard path in life. And so everybody that was in my close circle, my friend group, pretty much everybody in my school, they were all taking the beaten path, which is, Ephraim, what college are you going to? I'm going to this college. I'm studying kinesiology, and then hopefully I'm going to be a physical therapist and this and that. And then they would ask me, and I'd go, I don't want to do any of that shit. And at the time, they probably thought I was an idiot because while they were studying to get their fancy, flashy degree, I was washing windows. But look what this has blossomed into, right? So all is going according to plan. Although the plan has changed a ton to get here, the plan is working out accordingly. Yeah. So 18 to 20 was rough because all the clout that I had from high school football was gone. I had no skills, just no skills in general, right? So I could catch a football. That's about all I could fucking do. I could quick scope on Call of Duty Black Ops. I was a solid quick scoper. Unfortunately, that doesn't get you very far in the real world. It doesn't get you very far with dating, does it? So after my shifts, I would clock off of the window washing shift. I would go and I would DoorDash. The good news about this phase of my life is I had accepted that I just was not getting girls, so I just put all my focus into getting money. And so I was just working like a madman after the washing the windows. I would go and I would DoorDash until I literally fell asleep due to exhaustion. And then on the week, I even had a weekend job as well. So I was working 7 days a week. I was serving at a restaurant, bussing tables and serving food at a restaurant on weekends, right? So I was just putting all my energy into working because honestly, I was following the red pill rabbit hole dogma. And so this is the part of it that I appreciate, yeah, because I disagree with pretty much all of it. But this is the part I appreciate is it gave direction to a misguided kid who was very sexually frustrated, didn't know what to do with his life. And so the red pill guys were saying, well, shit, if you're a young kid and you're not getting laid, at least just put your focus into getting money, get in the gym, yeah, get a nice physique going. And then maybe you'll have enough wealth and the girls will start to like you. You'll have enough biceps and the girls will start to like you. So remember, I'm 18 to 20 years old when I'm consuming all this theory, and so I'm applying it religiously. And so I'm just swiping on Tinder in between DoorDash orders, but I'm going out and I'm making as much money as possible. And then I start getting into sales, right? So when winter rolls around with this window cleaning company, nobody wants their windows cleaned in the winter, so I start trying to sell the service. So this is where I start picking up the skills that line me up very well for cold approach. So I was doing door-to-door sales, business to business, right? Where I'd go restaurant to shop, and I would go, hey, your windows look dirty. Would you like to get on a subscription basis? I can come by every other week, clean your windows. Here's my quote. I'll give you a free quote, right? I'm trying to sell them that way. Then a few months after, so I worked washing windows and gutters for about 2 years, and then I got into leasing. So I started leasing apartments. This is the first time I saw fat commission checks, which set me up really well for cold approach. But keep in mind, this is around the time I'm 20 years old, still sexually frustrated, right? So we're reversing the timeline right now. So this is before I met the girl that ended up living with me for a bit. But this is why I let her move in with me, is because I went this 2 year period of barely getting any results with as far as dating. Every now and then I'd get a swipe on Bumble, and rarely did any of those girls ever come out. And when they did, she was usually fat. I'm just not, I'm just gonna be so straight up. It was usually a chubby girl. She was kind of cute, like just cute enough for me to go, yeah, I guess I'll bang her. And the only filter with which I was using to actually bring these girls out and try to sleep with them was, am I horny? I'm horny. All right, fuck it. I need something, right? I've been jerking off for the last 8 months in a row. Let me at least switch it up a bit, right? So yeah, she's a little chubby. Yeah, she's not the cutest. It is what it is. Think about what a shit position to be in. Right? I'm sure a lot of guys can resonate with this. And the reason why I go so in depth about talking about how much of a fucking loser I was because this is the same guy that you're seeing on camera today, walking over to all these girls. You'll see the Spanish supermodel video in a couple of weeks, whenever that drops. You'll see, I think tomorrow is when I'm gonna drop the Chelsea Uncut video, where I go to the highest end district in London and I'm talking to girls that are wearing designer purses and designer clothes, and I'm lining up dates with them. As the same kid who just 2.5 years ago was going months at a time without getting laid. A couple years before that, letting girls move in with me due to convenience. And a couple years before that, I mean, going literally pretty much a year at a time without getting laid. And if I did get laid, it was a fat girl. right? Same guy, and this is all within a 4 to 5 year time span. Same guy, right? And there are guys that come across the space that'll watch from the sidelines for decades, and they'll live this life that I'm describing I used to live for decades, and they'll watch content like mine, and they'll try to apply it on their own once or twice, but they'll give up and they'll just watch from the sidelines for decades. And this is something I corrected in about 4 years' time. About four, realistically, I corrected it in 1 month because I flew to Warsaw and I worked with the person that taught me this skill set. And 1 month later, I was going on dates whenever the fuck I wanted to. So truly, it was a 1 month change. But if we're talking about from when I graduated high school and started this rough patch of my life, it was about a 4 year journey for me. And guys will spend decades watching from the sidelines, probably even watching my content, yeah, as I continue to produce it. They'll probably watch it for the next 10 years and never take action. And it's so unfortunate because I don't know what worse of a life to live than to be watching somebody on YouTube live the life that I want. Also, knowing in my head that that person has a product or a service that can help me live that life too, but still choosing to just watch from the sidelines. Yeah, it's one thing if I just made what's the word, entertainment content, right? It's one thing if this was just me gloating my results and showing you all the date breakdowns just so I can go, haha, I'm sick and you're not, haha. But I'm not doing any of that. The only reason I have a YouTube channel, the only reason, is so that I can bring guys up here with me. That's the only reason, right? So everybody else that watches and doesn't engage with it and try to get coached, they're just watching it for entertainment in my head. Hopefully they're learning stuff and hopefully they're applying it. Hopefully it is improving their lives. But the only reason I'm making content is because I'm waiting for the algorithm to push it towards the guys that actually need it and want to take action on it. And they actually want to change their fucking lives. Yeah. 4 years ago, I was, what am I? I'm 25 now. I guess, oh shit, I guess I'm getting, I can't even do math anymore, but you see the point. Not too long ago, I was in a very romantically scarce position, right? So if we're talking about 25 to 23, that's 2.5 years. Yeah, I learned this skill set in March of 2023, and now it's September of 2025. And in that time span, I went from swiping on apps all the time, working my 6 figure job. I was working from home. I had my bong next to my laptop, and I would be taking rips. I'd be coding for a couple of hours, and then I'd be on Tinder swiping away. And nothing was happening. And I was so pissed off because I thought, damn it, what was all this work for? Why did I do this programming boot camp and pay them fucking 30 grand? Why did I save up all these commission checks and stack my bank account so high? Why have I been in the gym for the last 3 years? If it means that I get to my goal, which is fucking remote lifestyle programming, things that, obviously it's not lawyer status, but people look at it as prestigious if you compare it to the fucking grocery clerk. Yeah, if you compare it to the marketing agent, yeah, programming is like, oh, he's not doing too bad for himself. And I still could not even get dates with girls that worked at mall kiosks and were baristas and waitresses, right? Mainly because I didn't know how to actually walk over to these girls, right? But just to share with you, like, a lot has changed for me in the last 2.5 years. So recognize that a lot can change for you in an even shorter amount of time. Because, the only reason I say 2.5 years is because that's how long I've been approaching. But when I got back from Warsaw after my private coaching experience, I was lining dates up on the spot. I did my first approach in San Francisco as soon as I got off the plane. I didn't even get out of the airport. I approached an SFO. And then I was approaching that day, I was approaching that week, already had dates lined up, already was having my fun, happy endings the week of getting back after learning this skill set. All right. Now, I'm not here claiming that that's going to be the case for everybody because it's not. Everybody's starting out at their own starting point. So for me, I already had plenty of sales experience. I already knew how to converse with people, converse with girls in particular. I was invited to parties growing up when I was back in high school, and I was a part of the athlete group, and so I learned how to converse with women. But there were still plenty of holes in my technique that were missing that got filled when I was in Warsaw working with Christian, who coached me. All right, but just recognize that as long as you've got the intangibles, maybe what took me a week to apply and get results might take you 4, might take you 8. But the point is that 8 weeks is a lot fucking better than 1 decade of swiping on dating apps, hooking up with chubby girls that you don't even like. Okay, I mean, unless that's your type, then that's your type, I digress. Click off. Go fuck the fat chick. Somebody's got to. But if that's not your type, and your type is more so the girls that you see me walking over to, which are proper dimes. Yeah, you see. I'm not gonna say every one of them are, but I mean, come on, Spanish supermodel. Come on, right? If you're looking to line up dates with that type of girl, that quality of girl that you probably think right now is out of your league. Maybe she is out of your league right now, but not when you start to approach, not when you turn yourself into a courageous motherfucker, because eventually your courage is going to match her beauty. Yeah, because they're not filtering for beauty. The hottest girl is not looking for the hottest guy physically. Yeah, it's more so like whatever level of attractiveness she is physically, she's looking for that equal counterpart, but as far as inner game, yeah, as far as courage, as far as boldness, as far as assertiveness. So if you can match that, you don't need to be the pretty boy. You don't need to look like a male model. You just need to be a bold motherfucker. All right? And that's what I teach men how to turn into. They turn themselves in. It's already in you, by the way, just so you know. All the stuff that I'm sharing with you, it's already in here. Yeah, because I already had it in me. I just needed to learn how to let it out. I needed to learn how to release myself from the sexual shame and learn how to walk over. Because I already knew how to I knew how to walk up to a person and say hello. I already knew how to do that. I was just too scared to. There was just too many layers on top of that act, especially in the context of romance. I was just too scared to. But if you put a gun to my head and said, Ephraim, your life is on the line, walk over to that person and say hello, I could have done that no problem. Yeah, but then you add, okay, now tell them that they look beautiful, and all of a sudden, ooh, all the mountain rush of anxiety, it swoops in, right? All this to say, boys, and I'll get into the topic right now, but all this to say, if you're trying to build this on your own, you're wasting your time, therefore you're wasting your life. Because the money that you invest into yourself is going to give you the highest return. If any of my viewers follows Alex Hormozy, it's the exact same principle. He talks about it all the time. I watch a lot of Alex Hormozy's content, and this is exactly what I'm referring to. He talks about how investing into yourself is the best return on investment as far as an asset. Yeah, because what you are capable of doing in this lifetime is worth whatever stock you put the money into. Genuinely, yeah. And so yeah, I just challenge guys to invest into themselves. Guys like Isaac, right? Like, what do you know? He tried doing this on his own. He did 600 approaches on his own. Bravo. And then he goes, Ephraim, I'm still shit. Ephraim, I'm still not getting any dates. What the fuck is going on? And I go, oh, let's talk about it, right? Then he actually applies for coaching. I take him on as a client, and I go, oh, well, this is easy. This, and this is wrong. Right now, these four things that you're doing, completely wrong. Change it to this. Next week, he breaks his 4-year dry streak. Then he goes, you know what, Ephraim, I love this virtual coaching that we're doing, but I just want to like completely break through this fear, and I want to get to your level or as close as I can. And I go, all right, let's do an immersion. Yeah. So the guy books me for an immersion and flies to Belgrade, Serbia, and starts approaching. And I go, oh, well, this is wrong, and this is wrong. Do this instead. All right. Instead of saying this, say this. Yeah. And when it comes to actually trying to set up a date, don't say this, don't say maybe, don't say like, don't say potentially. Just say I want to take you out. Right. And we start to switch around a lot of the stuff he was doing, and all of a sudden the guy's flying now. Yeah, I just linked up with him last weekend, and you're gonna see that content next month. But just the progress he's made in since the 1 month that we worked together in Belgrade is amazing. All right, so just give yourself a shot. All right, link is in the description below if you'd like to schedule that free application call with me. Okay, but continuing on. So let's get into the topic. Yeah, 25 minutes into the live stream. Let's get into the topic now. So, I'll preface this by saying I got a comment on yesterday's live stream. I'm sure that guy's probably watching this as well. So, firstly, thank you for bringing this up, because he said something along the lines of, "I like your content, but can you please stop confusing phone numbers with dates," or something like that. He said, like, "Can you stop saying that you got 4 dates, and can you instead say that you got 4 phone numbers?" No, because that's not what I got. Yeah, so this guy's comment tells me that he and I are playing two different games. So the majority of guys that get into this skill set, this space of cold approach, at first at least, right? And so I don't want to degrade the guy. Maybe he's wonderful with the skill set. But at first, what I noticed, this was the case for me and most beginners, is we get into this stage of cold approach where we're collecting numbers, we're collecting phone numbers. And this is what I used to do, especially early on, is I would get a spike of validation if the girl just gave me her contact details, but I was not picking up on the very obvious context clues that she didn't actually want to go on a date with me. She was just being polite, right? And so a lot of the times I would like, there would be signals there, but I was so needy, and I just wanted that little cookie. And I was like, well, if she gives me her number, I'll feel better about myself. It won't feel like a rejection. Even if she doesn't respond, at least there's a chance she will. And so it pretty much every girl that I walked over to, if she stood there and talked to me for a bit, then I would inevitably go, okay, well, can I have your number? I want to take you out. Oftentimes I wouldn't even say the I want to take you out portion. I would just say something like, well, can I have your number? This and that. And the first problem there is, this is what a lot of coaches teach, and I think it's garbage. They don't even talk about setting up a date, right? They just, in that initial conversation, they just try to go for a phone number, and they try to do the rest of the work over text. That to me is just a guy that's scared of confronting a no. Yeah, that person is just scared of the girl saying no on the spot. They'd rather her say no to him virtually over text, right? So what I like to do is, when I'm in front of the girl, I like to suss out whether or not she actually wants to go on a date with me right then and there. So I don't even take her number down or give my number to her unless it's very clear that we're actually compatible and she actually wants to go on a date with me just as much as I want to go on a date with her. So that's where this guy's comment is invalid, right? So I will agree with him slightly, because I've just because I filtered for whether or not we're compatible, and she's literally verbally agreed to a date and a time for our date, doesn't mean that she still can't flake, right? She could still never text back. She could still never reply. She could still end up not coming out on the date the day of. Totally, totally fine. So I will say, to that portion of his comment, I agree. I would agree. But at this point, that doesn't happen to me very often. To be fair, these girls are for demonstration anyway, so we'll never know whether or not they would have come out. But the reason why I say I got 3-4 dates and not I got 3-4 phone numbers is because I'm not collecting phone numbers. The only reason I'm taking a phone number down is to discuss discuss meeting up, discuss the date, discuss the time if we need to change it around. So I guess essentially what I'm saying is, if phones didn't exist, but I still had this skill set, then rather than taking her phone number down, we would just have to say like, okay, let's meet on this street and this street, these cross streets, at this bar, this day, this time, this is what we'll do. But instead of doing that, we have technology where in case something comes up, we can actually communicate with each other. That's all the phone number is for me. So to the guy, if he's watching this, who left that comment, I respect what you're saying there, but I disagree with it. I'm not collecting phone numbers. I'm setting up dates. I don't even take a phone number down unless it's very clear to me that this girl actually wants to go out. All right. So that's why I say I got 4 dates and not I got 4 phone numbers. I don't see getting a phone number as a trophy at all. Yeah, that's not what we're out here to do. Guys that work with me, they don't want to collect phone numbers. They want to go on dates. That's what I teach, and that's what I do. All right. And in fact, there have been plenty of examples already in some of my infields where I had the opportunity to, let's say, get the girl's number or Instagram, and I just declined it. And the reason I declined it was because it was clear to me that she didn't actually want to go out with me. And if she doesn't want to go out, what the fuck do I want her number for? Yeah, keep your number. Keep your number. I don't want it. I don't want to engage in text. I don't want to play 8-ball pool with you on iMessage. Keep your fucking number. Yeah. So does that make sense? So anyways, let's get into the day. So I met Dirty Dan around Liverpool today, Liverpool Street Station. And the day went fucking amazing off the bat, which doesn't always happen. I'll remind you boys, does not always happen this way, but today just happened to go really well. So the very first approach that I did, so firstly, met around Liverpool Street Station, and he recorded the intro. So we're talking to camera, walking a bit, and then literally as I'm exiting the intro, there's a girl that looks really good. She had this purple top on and a brown leather jacket over it. She was crossing the street towards me, and so I told him, all right, I'm gonna let her cross, and then I'm gonna go say hello. And then that was the only approach that I did during that uncut demonstration, because it went amazing and we set up a date. So the way that it went is I walked over, my normal spiel, excuse me, hi, you look amazing, incredible, whatever I said. She really appreciated the compliment. We were talking for a bit, and I go, I don't hear an accent. You're not from here, are you? And then she says, no, she's Cypriot. And for those of you who've been following my content for a while, you'll know that that is a very interesting piece of common ground that her and I have, because I've been to Cyprus, which everybody that knows me goes, why did you go to Cyprus? That's so random. And I agree that it's somewhat random, but I'm glad I went. It was fun. But it also serves as a great piece of common ground because she's surprised that I've ever been to Cyprus. She's like, oh, it's not usually a destination that people go, but she was Cypriot. And so immediately I start speaking Greek to her. I knew a couple words in Greek, which is what they speak on the Greek side of Cyprus. And so I say yasu, which means hello. And then a couple more sentences later, I go, okay, I only know efharisto, which is thank you. And she says paragalo, which is you're welcome. And then I say yamas, which means cheers. So the only three words I know in Greek are hi, thank you, and cheers, which is hilarious. That tells you what I was doing when I was out there. But that was just a fun piece of common ground and a very easy segue into conversation after I've given the compliment, right? So we start chatting for a bit. She tells me she's on her way to a dog convention, which was interesting. So I go, oh, you're in the market for a puppy? What's going on? And she says, no, but I can't have a puppy and I want a puppy. So I'm just going to go and get my urges out and play with other people's dogs. And I was like, oh, fair play. So, but anyways, I tell her, because, she was on her way to this dog convention to meet her friends. And I tell her, I'm not going to keep you up, but I want to take you out. And then I shut up. All right, so this is the part, right, where that guy who made that comment probably isn't doing this. And this is a very important piece because this changes from you collecting numbers to you setting up dates. And it's a very massive shift that should happen. So for guys that follow along my content and they're trying to do this on their own, this is a big piece that you should listen to if you're actually approaching getting into good conversations, but you're in this phase where you're collecting numbers. Is I don't say, oh, you're going to meet your friends, I'll let you get on, but can I have your number? I don't say that. What do I say? Okay, you're going to meet your friends. I'll let you get on. I want to take you out. I want to take you out for drinks, something along those lines. I want to take you out for drinks. And then I shut up and I let the silence exist. And this is a very polarizing sentence. The girls that are interested will say yes. The girls that are not interested will say, well, they'll say anything but yes, right? So they'll say either no, or they'll say, well, I've got a boyfriend, or they'll say, I'm just busy these days, or they'll say, yeah, we just don't really know each other that well. Anything but yes, right? So that's a very polarizing sentence that you can use, that I use pretty much every time I'm trying to set up a date. But this girl was all over it, and so she goes, okay, yeah, that sounds good. I pull out my phone, and then and only then do I take her phone number down. Then and only then. After she's verbally said, yes, I want to go out for drinks with you. We even start talking about our schedule, right? I tell her, I'm usually free around this time, blah, 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 blah. All right. Now remember, this is only demonstration. So obviously I'm not actually reaching out to these girls. Their numbers are deleted now. But, to this guy's credit who left the comment, sure. Yeah. We'll never know whether or not she actually wanted to come out on the date or whether or not she was just so, non-confrontational that she just went along with it. But it's very rare, right? The reason why I say that sentence is because even if the girl is in the middle, it puts her on one side of the fence. Either she likes my vibe, she likes the conversation, she likes the approach, and she says, yes, I want to go out with you, or she says anything but yes. And I actually have an example of a girl who said yes today, but I didn't think that it was a true yes. It felt wishy-washy, and I walked away and I didn't take her number down. All right, so this is what I'm explaining though is. This is when you get into the abundance phase of the skill set, you realize, why do I want to give myself the heartache of just collecting numbers when half of them are not even going to respond? Instead, I'll just filter out right in the conversation itself as early as possible, and I'll go, okay, you said yes, but it doesn't sound like a true yes. Are you just saying that? And she'll probably say, yeah, well, and I'll go, okay, I got you. All right, well, have a nice day. All right, so that was the first and only approach that I did during that uncut. So after I did that approach, it went well, and then I did the outro, and I said, well, look, boys, today just happened to go my way, but reminder, it doesn't always happen this way. In fact, more often than not, it does not go this well this early. Usually I have a couple conversations that don't turn into dates prior to meeting a girl that does want to come out with me, but today the cards just fell in my favor. Remember, every day and every approach, they're all independent of each other, all right? So in this case, the first girl that I spoke to that day, today, just happened to like me and happened to want to come out with me on a date. And so I did the outro and I just reminded the camera, which you boys will see in a few weeks, but I reminded guys, this is not how it goes every time. And just because it went this good this early today doesn't mean you should expect the same thing to happen tomorrow. But what's nice is the same is true in reverse as well. Just because you start off shit, let's say for a couple days ago when I was on Oxford Street getting blown out 17 times in a row before the 18th girl actually liked me, just because that day started out so shit doesn't mean the very next day can't go amazing. right? Because in that case, guys would watch that content, which will drop eventually, and they'll go, "You suck, Ephraim. Actually, you should stop doing this." None of these girls want to talk to you clearly, but the problem is they're using too small of a sample size. They're using one day on the busiest street in the one of the busiest cities in the world, and they're trying to extrapolate that one day across a lifetime. But they forgot to look to today and yesterday. That also went really good, right? So it's like those guys tend to zero in on one day. They zoom in and they go, "Oh, see, you had a few blowouts that day, so that means that you're only going to ever get blown out, so you should never do this again," right? But then I'm like, "Okay, but where are you today? When I told you the first approach of the day, the girl wanted to come out with me. Why aren't you commenting on this video? Like, where are you today?" Yeah, and they're probably watching it too, right? So to be fair, that is just a person I categorize as a troll. But like, there are probably some guys that read these comments and they aren't trolls, but they're trying to like figure out where to put this. Like, do they have any merit to what these guys are saying, or is it truly just independent of each day? And I'll let you choose who to believe. Either the people that are commenting with no profile photo and they're not offering any demonstrations of themselves doing what they're talking about, or the guy who's actually like hiring a cameraman to follow him around London, flying to a new city, and then posting the results, good or bad. I'll let you decide who to believe. Yeah, it's not up to me. But so yeah, that was the first one. Then we started walking towards Shoreditch. There was another very fun conversation that happened here, where there was a girl who happened to be French, and I didn't know it at the time. And she was also walking somewhat behind a girl that looked similar, and I thought that they might be together, but they were walking far apart enough that I figured maybe she's not. So, anyways, I go and I stop the girl that I like, which is the one that was trailing behind, and I say, "Excuse me," to her, and she goes, "Yes." And then the other person that was like a few meters in front of her also turns, and so that signals to me, okay, they were together. And so I kind of get in front of the two of them, and I go, "Oh, are you two together?" And they say yes. And I go, "Wait, together like dating?" And they go, "No." And I go, "Okay, cool. Well, look, I'm coming over because I wanted to compliment you. You look so good." And she appreciated the compliment. And then I said, "What are you two up to today?" And they go, what are two up to, what to what?" And I go, "No, no, no, what are you guys up to?" And they go, what up to what?" And so at this point I realized that they're not from London, and instead they're from France. Well, I didn't know France at the time, but I was like, "Wait a second, you're not from here, are you?" And they both shake their head, and I go, "Ah, that makes sense. You're not from here, I'm not from here, we can't even understand each other. What the fuck is going on?" So that was fun. But yeah, funny enough, they were leaving tomorrow. But after having some back and forth, the friend was loving me, by the way. Um, Even though I was hitting on her friend, who also was interested, but like I was getting the blessing of the friend that I wasn't hitting on. She was loving the conversation, and yeah, I just told them like, "Look, this might not work out, but I'm gonna be out with some friends tonight, and I want to take you out specifically. Like, I want to take you out for a drink. So let's make it happen tonight, since you're both leaving tomorrow." And I said, "If my friends are up for it, then I'll even invite you." But the girl that I liked agreed. And so once again, to the guy who comments, "Oh, dates versus phone numbers," right? I would not have taken this phone number down unless I got that verbal, "Yes, let's go out tonight. Yes, yes, that works. Yes." Right? So once again, to this guy's credit, absolutely, she could have actually not come out. But I'm not collecting phone numbers. Big difference. Because if I had said, "I want to take you out tonight," and she goes, "We'll see because it's our last day and maybe tomorrow in the early flight it might not work," I would have just said, "No worries. You both look great. Have a nice day. Enjoy the last day in London." But instead, I got the verbal agreement. "Yes, yes, I want to have a date with you. Yes." Big difference, right? Big difference to collecting phone numbers. That's not what we're doing here, all right? And that's not what I teach guys to do. So yeah, that was the second date that was set up. And then the third one was, well, firstly, I'll go over the stretch of time where I was getting blown out, which happened today. So we got to the area that it's called Brick Lane. So this is my first time in Brick Lane, and this was a great environment. It was very fun because the people were dressed similar to me. It looked like a lot of thrifted clothes and people that looked more alternative and not so like preppy, like most of these Londoners I'm noticing look. But this was more like people that had a little bit of edge to them, more people with nose rings and piercings, longer hair, tattoos and stuff. So more my crowd, right? Not to say that that's all of my clients must fit into that box. Not at all. In fact, I work with some guys that are opposite of me, and they're very corporatey and professional. Fair. Yeah, I can get those guys results as well. But just if you were wondering what I prefer, this is more of like my style. If I wasn't just here for content, I'd probably spend a lot of my time in this Shoreditch Brick Lane area. as well as like the Victoria area. I do like the somewhat the somewhat really well put together, kind of like busy office worker looking girl with the nice pink blazer. As you see, what do you know, right? That's the video that dropped today. It was like a hot girl in a pink blazer. So that's also like a type that I really like. But like for example, where I was yesterday, the Chelsea girl, the prissy, um, high class, only drinks red wine, only drinks like top shelf alcohol, has like a little dog that she fits in her purse. Usually not my style. So, anyways, moving on. So yeah, there's this point. We just arrived at Brick Lane, so I did another intro to camera, and I went for an uncut infield from one end of Brick Lane to the other end, and I did I think 3 or 4 approaches during this uncut. One of them ended up being a really good conversation, but none of them ended up being dates. Therefore, commenter from yesterday, what do you think I did? I did not take their number down. Yeah. So this is the point I'm driving home with this portion of the live is so this girl that I'm referring to, right? She was Italian. She was living in London, and she really, really appreciated the compliment that I gave her. She said she was hungover. She said she was a music producer, and so or a singer songwriter, one of the two. So we got into this back and forth conversation that lasted about 4 minutes, I would say. And towards the end, now the first context clue was that she wasn't giving me too much. Like she was very engaged in the conversation, but there was like 0% flirting going on. And so I still went for it as a demonstration. And I said, I want to take you out. And this is what I'm talking about, all right? So at first, she said, "Okay, we'll see. We'll keep in touch." That's how she phrased it. She goes, "Okay, yeah, we can keep in touch." Very different than yes, right? Remember when I said it's either a yes or it's anything but yes, right? So for example, the girl from Cyprus the first conversation of the day, when I said I want to take you out, she said yes, yes, let's do it. Yes, I want to do that, right? Same thing with the French girl with her friend, right? I tell her I want to take you out. Yes. And then this girl, the Italian girl, I say I want to take you out, and she says, not yes. She says, yeah, well, we can keep in touch. We can see. So that was the first. I kind of raised my eyebrow, and then I go, are you on WhatsApp? And she goes, yeah, I'm on WhatsApp, but I prefer Instagram. Let's do Instagram. So that was like the third strike, right? So the first strike was there was not much flirting going on. The second strike is when I said I want to take you out. She gave me a very lukewarm answer. And then the third strike is when I said, are you on WhatsApp? She said, I prefer to do things over Instagram. So, which is a less personal medium of communication than a phone number, right? And so those three things being true, the girl, in theory, agreed to a date, right? I know a beginner with this skill set or one of my students, I probably would say, yeah, just take the number down or the Instagram anyways. Maybe she will come out, who knows, but just stack positives right now. But when you get to a point where you're actually, in this scenario, I'm trying to demonstrate what setting up a real date that would not flake actually looks like for guys that want to do that. Then you'll see when this infield drops, I just tell the girl, okay, I'll be honest, like I said something like I'm getting signs that this is kind of like you're not actually that interested. And she didn't like fully confirm what I said, but she definitely didn't deny it, right? So she kind of shook her head and she said, yeah, well, thanks for that. She said something like that. So that was confirmation to me. Okay, yeah. So she was just being nice. This is just a girl who like either was so non-confrontational she just didn't want to say no because she didn't know maybe how I'd react, or she was somewhat keen on somewhat into a date but like not fully bought in, or this was a girl that was just simply like, you know, bravo, this is a bold act. I'll reward you with my Instagram, but I don't actually want to see you. Regardless of which of the three that was, it doesn't matter. The point is that none of them are the result that I'm actually looking for, and so that's why I tell her, look, no worries. Let's just not exchange details in that case. But I hope you get over your hangover and have an amazing day. And I walk, right? So to yesterday's commentary, right? You guys can go back to yesterday's live stream and read that comment. This is what I mean. Is I could have put today, right? I could have put I got 4 phone numbers or I got 7 phone numbers if I was just out here collecting numbers from each girl that I spoke to. But I'm not doing that. I'm actually filtering for interest. I'm filtering for whether or not this girl actually wants to come on a date with me. And so in this case, I could have gotten another contact detail, let's say of an Instagram, but I still chose to just decline it because I could tell that it wasn't genuine interest. There wasn't genuine interest there. And if there's not interest, then I don't want to be in her followers list and I don't want to be in her DM box. Yeah. See, that was the second uncut. So that went to the end of Brick Lane. we wrapped up there. So I did like 4 approaches, including that one with the Italian girl. I got 0 dates lined up, and so I just talked to camera and I said, well, this is how it goes, right? The last uncut that I did, the first approach I did, the girl was, Cypriot. The girl liked me. She wanted to go on a date with me. Boom. And then this very next uncut that I did, I had a string of 4 approaches, couple blowouts, couple decent conversations, but no dates lined up. Proof. Every approach, every session, and every day is independent. All right. So do not take one approach and try to extrapolate. You need a whole lot of data, all right, to see where you're going wrong. And if you do not want to try to figure this out on your own, I don't know why guys would put themselves through the psychological torture of trying to do this alone. Then just reach out to me. Yeah, because I already know what to look for. I already know how to correct it. And if you're somebody that I would actually be willing to take on as a client, then I'll just help you do this in the span of 3 days. Yeah, 3 days, a couple of days, and plus the support system that I'd give you afterwards, rather than trying to do this in over the span of a few years if you're trying to do this alone, right? So yeah, first link in the description if you want to see if we're a good fit, if you want to see if I'd take you on as a client, all right? So yeah, that was the second uncut, and then I filmed another uncut, and this only lasted 2 approaches. So we were going from one end of Brick Lane, the opposite direction, right? So we started one way, did the uncut. Now we did the uncut in the reverse. And this is a super quick uncut because, firstly, the rain started pouring, but secondly, I already got a date lined up by the second approach. All right, so the first approach, I walked over as a girl that was standing, I think, near like a bus stop or something. This was fun. This was a quick, like, 2-minute interaction. And then when I asked her what she's doing, she says she's waiting on her girlfriend. And I go, okay. Well, I don't look like a girl, do I? Or I said some shit like that, right? I tried to joke about it. So she loved the compliment. She loved the approach. But she even started engaging with me after she told me that. She was like, oh, whereabouts are you from in America? This and that. But then I told her, all right, look, I'm going to get on now, but have a nice day. So that was the first approach, right? Did not get the date. And then the second approach, the exact opposite happened. So no more than like 20 meters away from that first girl that I approached, I saw a girl walking towards me that was on the other side of like a outdoor clothing pop-up type of a store. And so this was the first front stop I've done in London. But yeah, I just walked straight over, got in front of her. She loved it. This girl was native to London. And it was just a fun, quick interaction. Her name, funny enough, like I did like a little Shakespearean joke when she said her name, and the joke did not land. And this is something fun that guys can steal straight from me is when your joke doesn't land, just call out the fact that it didn't land. Yeah, that's what I like to do. So I did like this. She said her name, and it reminded me of something like Shakespearean, and so I said like something like Romeo and Juliet. I don't remember what I said. Something that was related to Shakespeare, and she just gave me like a blank face, and I go, okay, well, I was trying a Shakespeare joke right there. It didn't land. And then that broke the tension, right? And then she started laughing, and she's like, all right, no, but I'll make sure to laugh next time. Yeah, when you do this again on our date, I'll make sure to laugh next time. She said something like that, right? And then this girl, I got pretty granular with when I actually wanted to take her out. So, once again, right, I didn't say, can I have your phone number? I said, I want to take you out on a date. And she said, yes, right? Yes, that sounds great. Yes, let's do it. Something like that, right? So once again, if she had said anything but yes, I would have said, okay, it doesn't sound like you actually want to go on a date. Have a nice day, right? But because this girl is giving me very clear confirmation, right? Not only is the conversation fun and bubbly, not only is she happy to give out her number when I do eventually ask for it, but before even asking for it, she says, yes, I want to go on a date. So when those 3 things are true, you're not just taking a number down, are you? You're actually setting up a date. And with this girl in particular, we got pretty granular with it. So I told her, like, are you usually free during the week, or is it a weekend thing only? And then she tells me that she works, I forget what industry, but she doesn't have a set schedule. So some days she has off, blah, blah, blah. So I was like, oh, what day do you have off this week? She says Wednesday. And I say, perfect, let's do Wednesday then. You have to pick the venue because I'm not from here. She agrees. There you go. Once again, they're all for demonstration, so I've already deleted her phone number, but if the camera wasn't rolling and if I was actually out on Brick Lane trying to get dates, then I would have had at the very least 1 date set up, right? It's very unlikely that all 3 of these girls that verbally said, yes, I want to go on a date with me, would all flake, right? Very, very unlikely. But the reason it's unlikely is because of how I go about it, right? I'm not collecting numbers. I'm actually setting up dates, all right? Does that make sense? Big distinction there. So yeah, that's how the day went. Now look, I would continue on here. To be fair, after that, that was it. I think I did one more approach, quick blowout, and then we got rained out. So we only recorded for about an hour, and then the rain started pouring. Dirty Dan and I went under an overhang, tried to wait it out. We waited for 45 minutes. The rain didn't lighten up, so we just called it, and we'll try again tomorrow. But yeah, that's a story about how I got 3 dates in 1 hour today in Shoreditch, the District of London, on Brick Lane specifically, and around Liverpool as well. And look, if you're tired of listening to me talk about how easy it is for me to set up dates, because I'm kind of tired of it too, then the way you can shut me up is by booking a call with me to see if we're a good fit. Because if I've got clients that are a good fit for coaching, then my content is going to slow down, and instead I'm going to be focusing on helping them live this sort of a life. Yeah, and so I'm already doing that with my current clients that are in the group that I've already worked with. But yeah, I've got room to take more guys on board right now. This is what I'm doing full time now. So if you want to live this life that I'm describing to you instead of watching it on my YouTube channel, so why the fuck would you want to watch me do it when you can do it? Why would you want to watch Isaac do it when you can do it? All right. So yeah, just click the first link, schedule that application call with me. We'll see if we're a good fit. If I don't think you're a good fit, I'll just be honest about it. But I will give you as much feedback as I possibly can to set you up in the right direction for success in dating, and to hopefully get you on track so that in 6 months to 1 year, you are a good fit to work with me, and I would take you on as a client. But most people I simply wouldn't, because most guys are not ready. But yeah, just give yourself a shot anyways. You might surprise yourself, because you probably think that I'm looking for certain things like looks maxing, money maxing, gym maxing. You probably think, well, I'm not gym max. Ephraim wouldn't take me on as a client. In reality, I'm looking for humility. I'm looking for coachability. I'm looking for a baseline level social skills. I'm looking for a low ego, a guy with a low ego who can humble himself and be coached. And those are the main things. Yeah, and somebody who's not averse to taking massive action, who's ready to put in the work and the reps, who recognizes that they'll get out of this what they put into it. Yeah, it's a lot of intangible stuff. I'm not looking for the size of your biceps or whether or not you have a symmetrical face. Could give a fuck about that. All right, boys. So anyways, hope you enjoyed the stream. Link in the description below if you want to book in that call. Otherwise, I've got my group coaching call coming up in 2 hours, so or an hour and a half now. So I'm gonna go ahead and prepare for that for my guys that I'm already working with privately. So yeah, if you want access to that, you know where to find me. Link in the description below. Otherwise, I'll see you tomorrow. Peace. Oh, onwards and upwards.